This is one of those Bitcoin videos you don't want to miss out on. Today we're going to discuss why the weekly DCA zone is extremely bullish, what the daily order block actually confirms, plus the exact 4-hour level that decides the next move. We'll also analyze a full trading environment breakdown. So we're packed with content. You do not want to miss out. We also just made some big buck on our Bitcoin trade and the account is up over 11%. Our net profit is now $1,100 in our 10K to 100K challenge. If you're serious about positioning before the next expansion move, subscribe, like the video, turn on those notifications and join the free Telegram below because I'm entering new trades almost every single day. There's no guessing, it's just pure structure, data, and execution. This is Bitcoin on Point. Let's dive into the content. And we're going to start with the macro backdrop for today. Because Jack Dorsey's Square just started accepting Bitcoin payments for small business owners. That's 4 million merchants. No, it's not speculation. This is pure adoption. It's Bitcoin moving from an asset to a payment rail. Now, when in doubt, zoom out, they say, right? Michael Saylor has just doubled down on Bitcoin's price again. $1 million Bitcoin in the next 4 to 8 years, and possibly a $20 million Bitcoin in the next 20 years. Now, again, with the numbers game, you take it as you like, right? But look, you don't make calls like this unless you understand monetary expansion, unless you understand debt cycles and capital rotation. So this isn't something to ignore, right? Now, whilst all of this is happening, BlackRock has just bought another $278 million worth of Bitcoin. Over $250 million, right? In one move, by the way. So institutions aren't waiting for those confirmational candles. They're actually accumulating now. So retail hesitates, whales are accumulating, and corporations are integrating. At the same time, asset managers are also expanding exposure. So this is what early stages of structural adoption looks like, wouldn't you agree? So the question isn't whether Bitcoin's actually growing. The question is if you are positioned to ride the current formulas. Now, with that wrapped up, let's dive into the technicals, and we're going to begin with the important DCA zone for Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. And in relation to this exact strategy, what we're going to focus on is the 200-week EMA. This is the signal that gives us these opportunities, right? If we go back to 2020, Bitcoin had this massive rally. It then corrected to the 200-week EMA. And when it swept below, this is where the opportunity presented itself before a 16x rally to the 2021 all-time highs. Now, from that local high, retracing back to the 200-week EMA, you can see again, Bitcoin had this DCA zone below it, but once it recovered and held it as support on the 200-week EMA, we saw a 7x rally. So historically speaking, based on the two prior cycles, whenever Bitcoin dips below its 200-week EMA or ranges below it and builds a base, these are the areas of generational opportunities before major expansion. If you look at 2026, right now, it's happening again. Bitcoin is floating on the 200-week EMA. It sits roughly at 68K. So this is a critical inflection point. If we rebound here, fantastic. But if not, based on prior data, sitting underneath the 200-week EMA is where those generational opportunities are born, guys. So this is a major level where we either witness expansion in the coming months and respect this moving average, or we sort of fall below it maybe for the next 6 to 8 months and build some sort of base looking for expansion. Either way, the 200-week EMA, whenever we sweep below it, is an area of opportunistic entry. That's what we're looking at here. And we're repeating that exact signal again in 2026. Now, let's take this over to the daily time frame. We're going to look a little bit more intricate here. And at this moment in time, we are respecting our bullish order block, right? This is what I said at the start of the video. Bitcoin is respecting the OB, and this currently sits roughly, we look at sort of 60 to 61K. And we did have a recent liquidity sweep below into this zone again the day before yesterday, so on Tuesday. However, we've seen a very positive reaction. Yesterday's candle was a bullish engulfing, and this does signal that we could see the potential rally back up to 72K, right? This is the main level of resistance on the daily time frame that we need to break. $72,000. So once we do see the levels cleared and 72K reclaimed, it then leads to the potential of pushing up to 80K, these previous highs from early February, which is the key level to mark a structure shift, to mark a bullish reversal. So this is the imminent resistance at 72. We are respecting the bullish order block. We had a liquidity sweep followed by a bullish engulfing candle, and 72K is the imminent resistance to break before looking for any sort of macro shift. Right? So that's why, again, focusing on the 200-week EMA, the DCA zone, it's critical that it holds here. If it doesn't, it offers further opportunity based on prior cycles, leading into giga pumps. And the daily is showing the perspective right here. We're respecting the weekly order block. If we are to get a bounce out of the wood, 72 to 80K is the major price for a structure shift on the larger time frames. So with that wrapped, let's take it into the 4-hour. And this is where we have our deciding moment. This gets even more intricate. We did have this green ascending support line for Bitcoin. And again, we do have the 72K resistance, which is even more so clear here on the 4-hour. We've had multiple points of resistance between sort of 70 to 72K. We was building these higher lows on this trend line. But what actually happened was, again, this was the liquidity sweep, right? This is where we dipped back down below into our order block, roughly at sort of 62K. And then we saw a bullish recovery. And what we've actually done at this point is, after getting that liquidity sweep, we've now rebounded back into this trend line. So this was once support, and now it potentially could be acting as resistance, right? Which is why it's a very decisive moment on the lower time frames. If Bitcoin starts breaking through 70K, 72K resistance waits above, we must reclaim this green trend line in order to see that. Otherwise, we do risk the potential of coming back down to where we just came from, right? So it's a critical inflection point on the larger time frames in regards to the 200-week EMA and the bullish order block. But on the 4-hour, there's still even more so of a decisive moment. This could guide the direction for the daily depending on how it plays out. So 70K is the main level to watch. We could come back for some sort of higher low here and build a base and then go for the break. That's also another potential, but we will cover the data as it unfolds. So now that we have Bitcoin wrapped up across multiple time frames, let's look at the fun part of the video and break down our trades. And we're going to look at JST. I say fun, we're not going to start with the most fun, right? But nonetheless, this is all part of the game. It's all part of the challenge, right? So JST, in yesterday's video, I did state that we brought our stop loss up to break even just to protect capital. We had our entry at 0.04. It looked great. We was looking to run up to our partial profit target, but then we rejected and it collapsed below our SL. But again, no worries, no concern. We protected our capital and we had a stop loss at break even. So all we do now is, although it's pumped back up to our partial profit target, look, there's no point crying over spilt milk. We simply move on. And this leads us to some better news for today's trades. We had a Bitcoin trade set up on the 4-hour with a 65K entry. Our original TP was at 68K, but considering the momentum yesterday, we pushed it up to 69.6 and it hit, right? So what this enabled us to do was secure I think it was, where are we? Let's go to our February trades. BTC. We secured $571. And this was a 10x trade, right? We had 2% of capital risked and it played out perfectly. So now we are 11% up on our $10,000 to $100,000 trading challenge, and our total net P&L sits at 1.1K, 10 total trades, and our win rate is 60%. You see how fast it can change. I was saying in the last couple of days, look, we've had some losses, right? We incurred some losses, but all it takes sometimes is one good trade and that could just get you back on the hunt, right? So it's all part of the game. Now, looking at Fight, this was our trade setup for Fight, and this was on the 30-minute time frame. So this is a 1 to 4 RR setup, and when RR increases, we reduce risk, right? So I risked on this trade 0.5% instead of 1%. Why? Because if it hits 1.4, that's still on our account would be a 2% account growth, right? So there's no need to overexpose capital. That's basically what I'm saying. And right now you can see that we are floating in these higher lows. So it might hit the stop loss just waiting below, or it might actually reverse. You can see there's some sort of foundation building. So right here on this trade, initially the RRs, the reduced risk, you know, no overexposed capital, it all makes sense, right? The maths makes sense. And trading is maths. So if this plays out, fantastic. If it doesn't, again, we simply move on. Now, again, a quick update on our trading challenge. We're taking account from $10,000 to $100,000. 1,100 P&L, 10 trades, 60% win rate, 6 versus 4 losses. You win some, you lose some. All of the updates, executions, the entries, the stop losses are all shared in our Telegram. The link for that is in the description below. Again, if you enjoyed today's content, please like and subscribe to the channel. A quick summary before we go. Bitcoin's 200-week DCA strategy might provide a massive opportunity for future gains. The daily is respecting the bullish order block with bullish engulfing candles. 72K is the main resistance to break. The 4-hour shows the deciding moment at 70K, whether we can push up to 72 or come back for a potential higher low. And our trading environment, as always, is booming with a successful win on Bitcoin. JST didn't go to plan, but we protected capital at break even, and Fight is gearing up back down near our stop loss, but could still reverse to our partial TP targets. I hope you've enjoyed all of the content. Until next time, all of the best.